Hello Aquarius, welcome to your timeless reading. I trust that this will come to you when you need it. And as always, use your discernment when listening to tarot readings because you know your life and your situation better than anyone else. So I'm doing a fun movie edition readings this time around. I'm using the movie tarot, which was gifted to me by a friend from film school. And I'm also using this Movie Genius playing deck. This isn't an oracle deck, but it's been fun to play with. I don't know every movie referenced in this deck. And, you know, I'm still learning, still a perpetual student of film, so bear with me, Aquarius. And then, oh yeah, these are general readings, which means that I'm not looking at, you know, specifically career or love even. I'm looking at, like, energy, patterns, beliefs, all that. And these readings are meant as confirmation or food for thought, a little guidance, rather than me telling you specifically what will happen or what you should do. That's how I read. So anyway, Aquarius, that said, slowly but surely we're getting a few messages for you. We have the Wheel of Fortune, Back to the Future, Page of Coins, Slumdog Millionaire, Eight of Swords. So, oh, the Star, Audrey Hepburn in A Star is Born. Anything else? Oh, okay, we'll take these. Oof. Three of Swords, the Sun, Sound of Music. In the World, I don't know this one, so I'm gonna have to look it up. Maybe you do. The World is the Fifth Element. I haven't seen that. Lilu is perfection, the fifth element that combines with the other four to form the divine light and save the earth from great evil. Great. And forces are coming together because the time and conditions are right. And the ultimate point is reached. Time for travel, adventure, and exploration. Keep connected to the world whilst nurturing spirituality and inner needs. You will thrive with the right mix. Okay. Oh. I think this card kind of got jacked up. I don't know how that happened. Or is that how it's meant to be? I don't think so. Well, c'est la vie. I think this is plenty. Okay, so let's, Aquarius, pull from, like, my little playing card deck. Something fell. Let's grab it. Ugh. Okay. Ridley Scott. He did some stuff, didn't he? And this could be the Knight of Swords, if one wants to read it that way. Alright, Ridley. I think he did everything. Like, didn't he do Alien? Yeah, he did do Alien. And Blade Runner. He did all the sci-fi stuff that... I mean, I did see Alien. He did The Martian. He did Gladiator. He did Black Hawk Down. I saw that. Oh, Thelma and Louise. I mean, alright. I don't know what to make of him yet. Alright, Aquarius. I mean, it says sci-fi horror, and you are an Aquarius. You are, like, the alien of the deck. Or the deck. The chart. The whatever. Alright, Aquarius. We had fun pulling the cards, didn't we? And we got a little bit of a message already, which is the world. She's the fifth element. She's kind of like, when you got this Three of Swords moment here, this kind of like heartbreak, this like disappointment, this all is lost moment. You are, it seems, essentially the answer to your own heartbreak, is what I'm getting from all of this. And since we pulled Ridley Scott, I'm gonna, like, just pull from a little bit of his canon stuff like Alien and Thelma and Louise. Although he is an old white man, as are most directors, I would say that these are two films that kind of like have women at the leads, so let's just call that feminine energy, where the whole point of kind of both those films is that they aren't believed and they aren't trusted, and they kind of have to take matters into their own hands to address either an injustice or something scary that's coming at them, right? So interesting. We'll come back to all that. We got the Eight of Swords, which is feeling stuck. We got the Star, healing. We got the Sun, which is the Sound of Music. Love it. I'm just kind of going through all the cards again. So, Aquarius, I feel kind of like basically Act 1 of your story is that things are seeming a little daunting, right? Like, let's talk about these for a moment. In Alien, there's an alien on board the ship, and no one's listening to, Sigourney Weaver. In Thelma and Louise, they're almost, like, raped, and then I think they murder the guy, but then they were doing it in self-defense, and now the law is out for them. So, Aquarius, you might be finding yourself in a position where not only is there heartbreak, not only has something gone wrong, not only has, or maybe there's kind of, a scary instance seemingly on the horizon, as in, I don't know what that would be exactly, but a general vibe would be kind of like you feel in your bones a hurricane coming, and you know that it's in your interest and your family or your friends' interest to get out of the area you're in, and no one's listening to you. So I feel like part of the heartbreak of the Three of Swords is not only are you in a difficult scenario, but I think there's this trapped feeling and this kind of added burden to the heartbreak of not feeling respected, not feeling kind of understood, not having the support of maybe a community around you to make ultimately this move easier. It's like things are getting really stagnant and stuck, kind of like you're the canary in the coal mine essentially, and you're singing your heart out oh my god, danger, come on, this isn't good. And I'm a little bit slightly vocal about I think vaccines are a good thing because it's scientifically proven, and I believe in science. Even though I'm a tarot reader, I think I put stock in that, and I'm sure as an Aquarius you probably do too. So kind of be surrounded by a bunch of anti-vaxxers, right, and feeling stuck, this pandemic is never going to get any better because people are lost in their own fearful mindsets, right? So it's they might be accusing you, Aquarius, of being fearful about something, when in actuality you're just kind of a visionary. You're an Aquarius, you can see above, you can see into the future a little bit. Yeah. So, or it could be, something bad happened, like a breakup, and then everyone is blaming you for the breakup, right? Saying, oh, you were the one who sabotaged that relationship, even though maybe it was really abusive for you, and that's why you had to get out of it. I'm going on and on about this, but that's Act 1, Aquarius, is basically kind of being not only the subject of a little bit of pain and suffering, but having that pain and suffering compounded by this feeling of being trapped within that dynamic and feeling kind of there isn't a lot of justice involved. So this could be truly being in kind of a community situation where you've been really working hard to belong to it, and just no one's really respecting or appreciating your gifts. It just feels, it could just be the relationship itself, kind of you've been trying to make this relationship work, and your partner might be gaslighting you all the time, and not listening to your heartbreak or addressing your needs. So that's sort of, however it's playing out for you, Aquarius, that's the energy, that's the vibe. Moving on, because I think we should. Act 2. Aquarius realizes that things aren't great. I mean, I watched Slumdog Millionaire when it came out, and I'm rewatching it now so that I can be versed in this. But even in the beginning of this movie, it's like this kid gets all the answers right to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And then he's put into this kind of like torture chamber room where they're like electrocuting him and like waterboarding him because they think he lied about getting all the answers right. They think there's no way this kid could have all the answers right because he's just a nobody, so he must have cheated. When in reality, he did just know all the answers. And that kind of just harkens back to this that we're talking about here, Aquarius. It's kind of like you did have all the answers to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but no one's believing you. And then they're just torturing you because they like have a hard time understanding, Aquarius, how your mind works or your vision or your perception or kind of what you know deep down to be true. And I haven't gotten too far into my rewatch of Slumdog Millionaire, but you know, the easy thing for him to do would be to like be like, okay, yeah, I cheated, let me go. But he doesn't admit that because that's actually the lie, that he cheated. He really did know all the answers. So with the Page of Coins, I have like a little bit of like, this is a beginner's mind energy, particularly because for him, he was just serendipitously living his life, and that's how he ended up knowing all the answers, was because it was written, as in like the universe was conspiring with him to like bring him on this path for him to know the answers to the test at the end. And I think with the Page of Coins, Aquarius, it's like there's just this energy of you staying staunch in your convictions. Like, I mean, if we were talking about Alien with Sigourney Weaver, there's a card in this deck that is her. Maybe I can find it since we're talking about it. Anyway, oh yeah, strength. Beautiful. I'm gonna add this just because she's being summoned, you know. I don't normally just grab a card, but you have, I think with these two, this like the strength of your own conviction of like, you know the truth, and the truth to you is more important than, I guess, protecting other people's illusions. And maybe you're even kind of willing to endure some of this heartbreak just because it feels like the principle of it, or just kind of like honoring your own self, your own perception, your own like whatever is ultimately kind of it's like the hill you're willing to die on, right? And I'm not saying necessarily all Aquariuses are going through life and death stakes, but you know, like for example, like if you're in an abusive relationship, I hope you're not, but like I mentioned like the gaslighting element of like feeling kind of trapped in that suffering. And I feel like kind of what you're doing is you're like, I'm not going to gaslight myself anymore, right? Like, I'm not going to, like, admit to this other person that their truth is right. Even if that makes my life easier, I'm going to have this strength to, like, protect myself, to protect whatever is at stake. So this could be, like, being, like, a whistleblower at work energy, too, right? Which is, like, you've seen something in your, like, place of work that's really unjust, and if you speak up about it, like, that's going to cost you. Like, maybe it'll get you fired, maybe a bunch of people are going to start coming for you, you know, but I think that you're in a position, Aquarius, where, like, ultimately you have to live by your own code. You have to live by what like when you die and you look back on your life, what will you have regretted more, right? Not having been honorable and standing in your own integrity, or having like given in to this Three of Swords energy. And I don't think you are doing that. I really do feel like even though the Eight of Swords, it's like other forces are trying to keep you stuck where you're at, I feel like you are just pushing past it, right? Like, or you're holding onto your ground. Or I think with like an alien, she just kind of goes off on her own. Like, she just doesn't listen to them, right? She's like, well, I know that I have to defend myself. So if you guys are just going to hold me back, I'm not going to like wait around for you. If you want to go get yourselves killed, go ahead and do it. Again, not saying in your actual life things are playing out quite that dramatically. But yeah, I think you're willing to pay the consequences of whatever it is of standing by your truth. So again, if that was being the whistleblower at work, like Edward Snowden or whatever vibes, you're willing to have to leave the country if it means that you ultimately did the right thing. Again, maybe not that extreme in your own life, hopefully, but it is... Okay, I've said plenty about those two things. Let's move on. So we're kind of like in Act 2, which is like there's an injustice or something wrong at home. No one's listening to you, so you're gonna like just listen to yourself and do it anyway, even if you don't have outside support. So I think with that, we have the Wheel of Fortune, and then all these really good cards coming up following it, which is, I think that you are like the catalyst for a lot of really positive change, a lot of like illumination, a lot of like good things coming, right? So the Wheel of Fortune is things are changing, the tides are changing, and then this is of course Back to the Future, so this moment is about them getting back from the 1950s to the 1980s, and they have to time it just right. So to me, in this particular deck, the Wheel of Fortune is conjuring a little bit of an element of divine timing, of they have to like match the DeLorean going through right as the time is like the lightning bolt is hitting. And you know, like even in this movie, like there's a moment where it seems like the like plug isn't plugged in, and so like they might miss their chance. It's all very dramatic because these are movies we're talking about, but I think with the Wheel of Fortune for you, Aquarius, especially in the context of what we're having the conversation about, it's, I think like just like this like internal knowing that part of the reason that you are having like the strength of your convictions and like standing by your truth is because you know it's like that whistleblower thing. I guess the whistleblower is the best example at this point, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be getting out of a relationship, it could be getting out of a job, it could be whatever, but I think that there's you knowing that you are the catalyst, you are the change that you seek in the world. And I think there's also kind of knowing that because you're ahead of your time, maybe, you know, Back to the Future, literally, he's from the 1980s and he's in the 1950s. Because you know you're ahead of your time, I think that you have kind of, I think it's strengthening your convictions. And also, I think you're able to do what you're able to do because you know that people are going to come around to your side at some point. Not that you're doing it for other people's validation, but I think you just know that, like, just because other people can't see it yet doesn't mean that they won't, and that the more you stand by your truth and make these changes and kind of force people to Wheel of Fortune, kind of look at things in a new way, to shift everything, right? To mix it up, then that is sort of like ultimately the point. And there's plenty of people in history, like, I mean, Rosa Parks comes to mind, right? I mean, whatever, like people who did things that at the time were very controversial or considered wrong in some way, but actually like the culture was wrong, and those people were the ones who saw the vision of like, actually things should be this different way. And that's very Aquarian of you anyway. So this is like a very Aquarian story I just feel like Wheel of Fortune too, like maybe you're timing things a little bit. So like if it is about you having to like speak out, maybe you are kind of doling out that information as like in little chunks so that people can digest it like a little bit at a time. Like even though you might be ready to blow the doors of perception all the way open, maybe you're kind of like creaking the door of perception for other people, like one little increment at a time with the clock too. So kind of like you are in control of the change ultimately because you can see the full scope of the change. That's what I want to say with this. So I hope I said plenty on that. I hope that made sense. And then beautiful. But I'm gonna pause. Okay, Aquarius, I had to do a little costume change, but we're in your third act, and we're talking about the sun, the star, and the world again. So with the sun and the Sound of Music, I feel like things are just going to be looking up, right? You're going to like get your happy ending. And, you know, I think about like the Sound of Music. One of my favorite songs from that is like I Have Confidence. And it's like she knows that she's going into this like new household situation. But she's like in that song talking about like all the things she's going to like show and teach these kids, and that like in her having like kind of the confidence that she can do it, like that she'll make the difference. And I think since you are approaching kind of everything with like your deep inner knowing, you are illuminating a lot for other people. And I think there are other people, of course, who can see what you see. And I think that in you having your courage and confidence and strength, as we talked about before, that it's kind of like, I watched this silly little video about like how to start a movement, and it was like one person started dancing, and that's not the movement, and then it's like another person joined in copying the leader, and then that was kind of like the move, right? So I think partly with the sun, it's like, yes, you're illuminating things and you're like standing in your own confidence about like the changes you're gonna make and about like the kind of positive difference you're making. And I think it's also partly that if you can find a little bit of like community around you, or like that one other person who believes in your vision, that might help to start that movement, because then it's like the second person joins, and then that encourages the third person, and then it just kind of becomes like a wave, right? So you kind of just need like a few dominoes to get things going. And it all starts with you, of course. But I think we're talking about like the happy ending, or like kind of the third act of your story, is that like you are going it alone for a while, but that in doing so, you are also creating space for people who already agree with you or who see things the way you do, for them to stand by your side and for them to kind of feel seen and heard as well, because there's definitely like it's impossible for you to be alone in this. So that is what I'm getting with the sun. And then we have the star, which is a card of healing, and then this is A Star Is Born, which weirdly I have not seen like any version of that movie. But I think just the star is a star, right? And I think the star is Aquarian energy, if I'm not mistaken. So I think a lot of this, and this is a card of healing, and obviously a lot of our reading is talking about you healing like a community or a situation or a dark period, or it's like you're making a shift for everyone towards a more positive way of being or seeing or protecting oneself too. You know, if that was like, if to go back to like the hurricane example, it would be healing to relocate to a place where you're not going to be bombarded by a hurricane. Just so Aquarian energy, I think a lot of this reading too is with the star is telling me that you don't really have to do much. Maybe you're doing things, but what I mean by you don't have to do much is that you don't have to change who you are. It's like you standing in who you are organically, naturally, authentically. You not changing yourself helps to change the world, right? You being exactly who you are is the change the world needs. So, yeah, and I mean, she's like at a microphone, so it does feel like a lot about like using your voice and like using your gifts and like all of these things that come very naturally to you. And maybe just a little additional message is that sometimes we can be, I mean, this doesn't feel like it's a problem for you in this reading. Like, it feels like you very much know what you know and you're not willing to back down. And that's been what we've been talking about. But, it feels like this is like kind of about you becoming even more of yourself, right? So, to make like a weird example, I guess, if you had like a dream, for example, like a nighttime dream, and in the nighttime dream you had that vision of the hurricane coming, and that was why you were like, oh my god, I really trust my dream because I know that this is a sign from like spirit or whatever. And then you tell people that and they're like, oh, that's not a real thing. No one has premonition dreams or whatever. So with the star energy, again, I don't feel like you were doubting yourself. I just feel like with the star, it's like, this is you really kind of being totally open about how you knew everything or how you approach things. So this would be you like sharing like, I had this dream and that's why I knew all this stuff too. So I think with the star, it's like part of like the healing is collective, like you being yourself heals everyone else. But I think part of the healing too is you just kind of giving yourself permission to like let your freak flag fly, to share your voice, to share your gifts, to not like pretend that it's something else, you know, other than what it is for you, if that. So, and then we got the world, which is like the happy ending. And I think, as I mentioned before in that deck, it was talking about like, she's the fifth element, she's the missing piece, and like you are the missing piece, right? And you are the one who is like, I think initiating a huge cycle of healing for the collective. And I mean, we are in the age of Aquarius, right? And that just started last December with the Grand Conjunction, I believe. And I don't quite know what's happening with the planets right now. But also, this is a timeless reading. And I'm doing this as of 2021, as you can see in the dates. But I think that this is kind of your time to shine, the star healing. But it's also your time to kind of step up as a leader. And, you know, you are a sign that is more than most concerned with the collective. That's kind of like why you are here. So a little bit of this feels like kind of like fulfilling like your destiny, or like kind of like this reading is also pertaining not just to this one situation, but to this situation being representative of like a reason you might have incarnated here on this planet, is to like share these messages, these gifts that you have, and kind of to stand alone, but stand alone in terms of knowing that that's what is in everyone's highest good and best interest, even if other people don't quite see it or understand it yet. You are starting the movement. You are it, basically. I mean, I'll see if anything else that I missed. So, long journey, perfection, completion, conclusion, reward, prize, the universe, including the four seasons, the material world, supported by divine imagination, power through intelligence and wisdom, which is, I think, what we've been talking about. It's a massive achievement, a well-deserved success. And you combine, like, and it does talk about, like, combining with others to form the divine light and save the earth. And I think with here, too, it's kind of like you're the leader of a movement. So other people might, in this third act, be joining you. And even if you're, like, the catalyst that got it all going. But I think you don't mind, because the whole thing was never really about you alone. It was about you facilitating change for everyone's highest good. You seeing the future and you leading everyone into the future. That could be the one that you could see that no one else could see initially, or that only a few people could see. Phew. Okay. I think that's it, Aquarius. So if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And I am now offering personal readings, which you can find on my website, links below. And I'd love to see you there for a one-on-one. It'd be really nice to connect with you. And I'll see you again next time. Bye.